Hello, welcome back to my channel. I don't know if any of you saw Tracy Fox's Instagram post this morning, but she posted these little baby envelopes. Well, perhaps they weren't baby, or pockets that she made with little tags in them, and then she decorated them. And I was just like, let's make teeny tiny pockets. Yes, please. I mean, she could have made them like really big, but I'm silly and nothing's big. So what I have is, this is what my prototype looked like. And of course I put my pocket kind of not, or my little notch, not quite square. So I've got this tab punch thing. And it makes an 1.5 inches. So I made my pocket 1.5 inches wide. So it's basically it's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. It looks like it's not square because I put the notch in the wrong place, but it is square. And then this is a small bit narrower than 1.5 inches, because if you do it exactly 1.5 inches, it won't slide into the pocket. So I just used my scissors and trimmed off a little bit on each side. Like I said, this is my prototype. These are the ones that I made, and so the top is fully rounded the way that it is. What I did is I cut all my little strips, slid them in because they're so short. They don't actually fit in between and stick out. If I do it so that they stick out, you don't get that round top, and I kind of like the round top. So I had to slide it down and then make sure that it fit, like it would be underneath that little punch. And then just punched them all. So I have a whole bunch of those already punched out. And I was putting stuff beside me, and my journal that I'm working on for Creep on June fell on the floor, so I have to put it back together the way I had it. The sadness. So I have a whole stack of these. I probably won't make this many. Then what I did is I used the Creep on June. Some of them are backing papers. So this is one of the backing papers. And I cut it 2 inches wide because I wanted 1.5 inches, and I want to put a fold at the top and a fold at the bottom, so that I should have left one open, so that I have a little tiny bit of a fold over at the top, and then a gusset at the bottom, and then a gusset at the side. So I cut these pieces 3.5 inches wide. That should be right, yeah. Because folded in half, that's 1.5 inches, right? Yeah. So what I did is I put enough for a gusset on one side, because you don't need a gusset on both. That's like too much. And then I use my scoreboard to score at 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch, like so and like so. Then what I need to do, I can either fold this like so and just by hand fold it in half like so. And because it's just paper, that's easy enough to do. So you have a whole bunch of extra bits. So what I would do on this, you do want all the top here, but you don't need at the edge here or the edge here. Now this will determine that it's kind of the opposite of where your gusset is. So cut out a little bit here, like so. Now what you don't need is the other half of your gusset. So you can just trim that off. These little gussets are about 1/4 of an inch deep. Now the other thing is, you don't need where this V is. So you can just come in here like so and just notch out a little bit. This will determine now where your top is. And then I glued down these 2 bits like so. Hopefully that's straight. And like so. And then on one of them, you want to put a little notch so that you can tell it's a pocket. I mean, you don't have to put that notch in. You could leave it without the notch. But a notch would be fun. So I am going to put, let's see. Let's put the notch on the same side as the little gussets and see if we can actually get that in the center. It's a little challenging because you have to eyeball it. I mean, you could measure it. Who measures? Like so. That looks pretty close. Well, I think that's pretty close to in the middle. And then I used my scorched timber and just inked around that thumb notch so it stands out around all the edges, because we all know that scorched timber goes just beautifully with this kit. And I did back and front on this. You could just do front, you could just not ink. Completely up to you if you want to ink or not ink. And then put glue along my 2 gussets, and I'm just going to make sure that I have enough of this, like so. I printed all of these little pockety bits on that interesting linen paper that I got at the thrift store, just because it gives it a little bit of structure, and it's a little bit heavier than a normal copyweight paper, and I think that will be quite interesting. Well, they are quite interesting, and it's a little bit heavier, so whatever you put it on will be sturdier, which I kind of like. And it also means that that little tag will go in quite nicely. And boom, little baby tag in a little baby pocket. And then these are the ones that I created to go in there. So they're a little bit shorter and don't show. The punch I have determines where the hole goes. If you didn't want to do that, you could either purchase little wee tiny tags, which would have the hole a little bit further up. You could do like this one where you don't push that all the way down and then the hole is a little further up. And I think it would be really fun to put like reinforcements on those. But that I didn't cut reinforcements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build all my pockets. The reason I put this one aside is this is too far down, so it won't work. This is one of the tags in the kit. I could, if I had printed this fit to page or bigger and trimmed off some of the edge, this would have worked, but as it is, it's too small. The next thing I'm going to do, this one, the gusset is a little bit deeper, like that white bit. I left it on from the paper. I'm going to trim that back to 1/4 inch, hoping that the paper stays straight while I do it. And hoping that I didn't trim off too much. That should. That might be too shallow now. Let me see. So the next thing that I want to do, if that's too shallow, I'll have to determine. So what I did is at 1/4 inch, I used my scoreboard just to make sure my line is straight. Scored 1/4 inch bottom, 1/4 inch top, and 1/4 inch on one side, and only one side. And I probably told you this already, like so. Now you can see I have, I don't know, can you see that? There's a little score line at 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch, and then just trim, fold your gussets over, and I think you could score from the inside so that it's easier to fold. Because these are like more inclined to fold that way. So you could fold that way and then fold the other way. That's one way to do it. Now let's make sure that's 1.5 inches. It is. Yay. So I am going to do all of the little scores and then come back to the next bit. If you have little white bits that you've left on from the edge of your paper, for example, use that as where your gusset is, rather than taking it on that side and then you'll have white on this side. I mean, that's logical, but, you know, just in case. Now what I'm going to do is cut out all the little notchy bits, fold the pocket in half. Like I said, you could score at this point if you wanted to. I'm not going to. And then trim all of these parts out. This is one of the things that makes a mass make go faster, is if you do like and repetitive actions with other like and repetitive actions. So cutting out all notches, and actually what I could do, which would make it go even faster, is cut out all the notches like this, then fold it in half, then cut out all the other notchy bits. Now that I have all the notches cut out, I'll fold all the little gussets over, like so. And if a little bit of white shows, like it does here, you can either pull it up a little bit so that it is not showing. But I'm not that worried about it because when I come around to ink it, most of that will go away. Also, if you find that your little mitered corners aren't 100% perfect at this point in time, you can just trim it back a little bit so that they fit together a little bit better. Just to reassure you, I'm not going to show you me decorating every single one of these because that would take us, that would be one really long video. Yeah. Now, from here, what I'll do is I'll fold these in half, like so. And it's pretty easy to make sure that they're square, and because you're using the lines of the paper. So that will be my next step, is I'm going to fold them all in half. And if you want to be 100% sure that these are exactly in half, by all means, use your scoreboard and score at 1.5 inches from one side or the other. What is really important is that your gusset for the bottom is on the same side as your gusset for the side. That is one of the things that you want to keep in mind, so that when you're cutting the excess off, cut it off on the opposite side of where the little gusset is on the vertical. Having glued all the tops down, I'll put some notches in all of them. And if you're using this little hole punch, which I think this is like the 5/8 inch, you can buy 2 of them on Amazon together. You get this one and that little weeny one. I discovered if you kind of line up the edge of the punch here with the edge, it actually fits almost dead center, surprisingly enough. And I did a whole bunch of them because my phone, I thought it was recording so that I could cut that part out, and it wasn't. And not that you need to know that, but if you're putting a notch in, I find it easier to put the notch in the side where the gussets aren't, like these 2 gussets, only because it's easier to get that notch in the more or less in the center of this little thing if I'm putting it on the side opposite where that where the notch is. And that's only because otherwise I would have to fold this notch over, and it's an extra step. I don't want to do that. Now, if you are going to ink, you can ink around notch holes, edges, anywhere that you want to add ink, or just glue them together. Inking is not necessary. I believe another reason I don't ink very much is it takes a long time. Very long time. Now I'm going to glue all the little pockets shut. Basically just fold them in half, make sure that they line up, and glue them together. I should have mentioned at the very beginning, another reason to do that little 1/4 inch at the top is then on the back side, you don't have to worry about it being white and about having to ink or put something in the back or print double-sided. It gives you a perfect little pocket like so. Oh. And then if it doesn't line up 100%, like down here, maybe there's a little white showing and you're like, oh dear, I didn't do that properly. You can either very carefully trim it off because you don't want to cut your pocket open at the bottom, or you can ink it like so. And here too. Either one will work. Oh, those are so stinking cute. But let's make them cuter. Let's decorate up maybe 2 of them. Not very many. I mean, I'm not going to decorate that many while you're watching, because you'd wander off and have supper, or, you know, you would do something that doesn't involve watching a video. So what I got at the thrift store, oops, sorry about that, this Scrabble book, the official Scrabble quiz game book, and it has these Scrabble letters on it. So I cut a bunch of them out. I don't know that I'll use them because this is the Creep on June, some of the background kit, and some of the tag pieces. And then the other thing that I did is I cut out Tracy's botanical labels at 4 to a page. So they're really nice and small. That's from one of her freebie tag kits. And printed 4 to a page. I don't think I'll use that one because it doesn't show up enough. But I really like these like little tags. Like, aren't those so adorable? You know, little on little. You will discover that if you've watched at all or stick around at all, that I have an obsession with printing things like labels, 4 to a page, or smaller. I sometimes print them even smaller. I don't know that I'm going to, after having cut all these Scrabble letters out, I don't think I'm going to use them after all. They don't just quite fit, but definitely I will use these. I have a tiny bit of this left, so I might use some of that. And then I have little, like, tiny bits of lace, which needs color to it. I think I'm going to add some tea dye to this little bit of lace. Give it just a bit of color. I could have spritzed it with water, but then it would be wet and glue wouldn't stick on it. I could put a fussy cut on there. Trying to think. This is where I always like, this part takes me forever. I thought that this came from a magazine, but now I'm thinking that's washi tape. That's from one of Tracy Fox's, this introduction postage due. As soon as I gave up, I found it. I've done this before with this one. That's upside down. But if I do it the other way around, the paper clip is upside down. So that's right side up for the lettering. So maybe we'll do it sideways, like so. I might, instead of the lace, after having done that with the lace, put cheesecloth on there instead. It is definitely time for me to clean my desk. Like so. And then like so. And that is straight. And something round. Well, I went digging through all my stuff and can't find anything round. I did find a stamp and it's got number on it. So let's use that and make my desk even messier. Sorry if my hair got in the way. I'm going to use Stays On in Spice Chai, mostly because I really like this color. I would use black, but I can't. I have had no luck. Ah, that's awful. Well, black would have been better. Definitely black would have been better. However, that's still really cute. And then you put the tag in there, and you have like a little baby clustered pockety tag thing. I have now compiled a whole bunch of ephemera to put on tags. These are printed, not really well, they're 9 to a page, but they're 9 pages printed on 1 page. There's a way you can do it on a Mac that you select however number of pages you want to print, and then you print those. Then I've printed some of these botanical labels 2 to a page. And then I also discovered in my stash, I've got these little baby tags. They're made by Avery. I have them on my desk. I even cleaned my desk. I also got these at a thrift store. So they are a 2 3/4 by 1 3/8. They're too high. So if I was going to use these, I would trim them way down. These have the advantage to not needing an eyelet in them, where the ones that I made out of craft cardstock, I might want to put an eyelet in it. They are 13031. That's the name of it, and there's 100 in this little container. So definitely would have enough if these are the ones that I wanted to use. Sorry, but I'm not sure. I like the craft ones better. I just like the color of them better. Decorating for me always takes the longest amount of time. These little things are made out of various background pages from the Creep on June kit. You could use whatever you wanted. Make it fit whatever kit you're working with. So I'm going to put this one over to one side so that at the end we can have a look at what we managed to complete. And I'm going to try to go fairly quick and not think about it too much. Just do it. See how many we can get done. There's one in here. Don't overthink it. And then there's one in here. Ooh, let's use our creepy Bride of Frankenstein. I have smaller tags that might work better. Yes. And I'm just going to try to build them kind of like little mini clusters without a lot of stuff on them, because they're only 1.5 inches wide, so if I put too much on them, they'll just look busy and cluttered. And then these little round ones. I do have numbers, but it looks like all my numbers might be too big. To fit inside that circle, it's got to be pretty small. Be a bit big, but let's try that and see what happens. That works. That works very nicely. I like that. Okay, one. Give it a little tag. You can put a rivet on your tag. Eyelet. Not a rivet, an eyelet. You could also put a rivet, but not with a hole that size. The rivet would go right through. If you put a label on something like this, don't be afraid to like put it on top, although that would cut off that image and I wouldn't want to. Or like if you did something like this, which I like that one. You could put then the label here and then trim off the label on that side, which I think works quite nicely. So let's put some grungy cheesecloth behind there. You can let your cheesecloth hang over the edge as well. Glue it to your fingers, because that's fun. I didn't ink around any of these little tiny bits either. I just left them as they are. The other thing I think you could do, either if you put an eyelet or if you don't, you could put like a bulb pin in here and put a dangle on there. That would be really fun as well. Two done. If you find when you get to this point that there's a line of white here, just add a little bit of ink if that's what you like. Not very much of that cheesecloth shows. So I think what I might do is add a bit on top. Like so. Get it so that little street lamp shows. And I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of that, so it hopefully sticks a little. Add that down there, like so. And another one done, like so. I think that's better. Let's try a purple one, just to be different. You can also put your labels up and down instead of like, they don't have to be sideways. the right way. It's nice if they don't stick to your fingers. Add that down there, like so. Oh, excuse my squeaky chair. Yeah, you can probably see that there's a bin of flowers beside me now. And little one, like so. I think I'm going to actually pull that up and put that on top of the label instead of underneath. I like that these are really quick to make because of the size of them. Because they're so tiny, you don't have to think too much, and you don't have a heck of a lot of room to put things. So they go together pretty quickly. Could also have put the flower over top of this picture, but that one almost seems deeper. Perhaps that is. Ah, that is. I think I forgot to fold over the little lip on the top. No, I did fold over the lip. I didn't fold the lip as far down, so this one is 1.5 inches wide, and I think it's closer to 2 inches tall. Okay. That one's not square, so I'm going to cut a little bit of that off so that it's a little bit square. I had an idea. Who knows what it was? I was like, I should do, and then, that thought's gone. Use some of this. These don't necessarily show up very well, these, because they're quite transparent. They're mostly for interest. And I think I'm going to put both the cheesecloth and this. Just because. Like so. And then the raven. Let's use the raven because we need the raven. And little baby tag. Making sure we put them right side up. Little label. And then a little circle. Like so. And a tag. So that's about 20 minutes, and with everything else, that's probably a fairly long video for you guys. So in about 25 minutes, did 1, 2, 3, 4, which I know isn't very much, but, and then that one I did yesterday. Oh, that was what I was thinking. Let's add a little bit of this faux vintage tape to each of them. It won't be that noticeable, but it will add some color interest to it. And I'm cutting these really, really tiny. They're about 1/4 of an inch wide, maybe even a little thinner than that, so that they don't overwhelm the little pocket. Tape. Some Frankenstein tape for Lady Frankenstein. And I think I'll put that one underneath her like so. And then this one might not work because I put the cheesecloth on the top. right, that works. Okay, so I have my work cut out for me for the evening. I have like 112 little pockets that now need to be decorated. So decorating shall ensue off camera so that I, you know, otherwise we'll be here all night and you don't need that. So that's the one I made yesterday. That's a Tracy label. All the labels I've used are from Tracy's. I think they're the botanical labels. A little bit of cheesecloth behind that and added some of that vintage, faux vintage cellophane tape. Another one. I think these are so cute. Until next time, I hope these are inspired, I don't know, I think I said it when I started, these are inspired by the Instagram post that Tracy Fox did, I think it was yesterday morning, where she had made all these tiny little envelopes and pockets, and I thought, well, that looks so much fun, so I had to play around and see if I could make some. But until next time, I hope you have a lovely crafty day and are enjoying Creep on June. And like I've said before, I really appreciate everybody that comes by and likes and subscribes. And if you've made it this far, thanks for sticking with the entire video. And until next time, have a lovely crafty day. Bye.